Chris's breath caught in his throat, his heart pounding mercilessly. What was happening? The horrifying truth unveiled before him. His wife had been deceiving him from the very start. Shame coursed through his veins, rendering him speechless. For months, she had expertly woven a web of lies, leaving him completely in the dark. He desperately wanted to confront her, but his voice failed him, his body paralyzed by shock. How could he have been so blind? Back in January 2017, when Chris had left home, he had braced himself for a 5-month absence. Little did he know, a far more devastating revelation awaited him upon his return, one that would shatter the very foundation of his world. Chris's instincts had been gnawing at him ever since he left. Something about Natasha felt off. He struggled to pinpoint the source of his unease, but he couldn't ignore the subtle changes in her demeanor. Together, Chris and Natasha had built a family, raising 3 beautiful children as living testaments to their unwavering love and commitment. Over the years, the Daugherty family had faced the hardships of Chris's demanding military career, with numerous prolonged separations as he was called to serve his country. Yet each time they were reunited, it was as if their love had been forged anew, stronger and more resilient, defying the odds that threatened to tear them apart. But this time, everything was different. When Chris received orders to depart for Korea in early 2017, the couple believed they knew what to anticipate. They had mentally prepared for the challenges that lay ahead: the long-distance relationship, late-night phone calls, video chats, and more. Natasha began to experience loneliness without her husband by her side. Although she cherished her 3 wonderful children, there were moments when she craved a hug and some affection from a partner. As the weeks went by, her sense of unease grew stronger, leaving her to wonder in frustration, what on earth is wrong with me? Gradually, even her children started to notice that something was amiss. Her eldest child, a perceptive 10-year-old boy, was particularly observant. She knew that if she confided in him, he would do his best to keep her secret, at least for a while. However, she couldn't bear the thought of burdening him with such a responsibility for an extended period. That wouldn't be fair to him. Moreover, her biggest concern was whether her younger daughter could, and more importantly, would want to keep the secret as well. Her days were mostly consumed by household chores and caring for their children. Nevertheless, she made sure to maintain regular contact with her husband, as they had always done. She knew that if she changed her behavior, he would notice right away, so she did her best to act as if everything was normal. The seemingly carefree couple spoke on the phone almost every day, and sometimes they even video called. However, video calls were more challenging for Natasha. Chris, after years of marriage, was well versed in reading her expressions. There were moments when it became incredibly difficult for Natasha to keep her secret. She longed to tell Chris, as she had never kept anything from him before. In the beginning, the burden was particularly heavy. Just a few weeks after he left, she nearly told him everything. However, at the last moment, she decided to keep her secret, and from that point on, she resolved to conceal the truth from him no matter what. But it wasn't just Chris whom she was keeping the secret from. She also hid it from her in-laws and even her own family. Not only was Natasha's situation growing increasingly precarious, but Chris, who was stationed in Korea at the time, found himself in a dangerous position as well. The North Korean government had been conducting nuclear weapons experiments, and Chris happened to be in close proximity to the testing site. Meanwhile, Natasha, oblivious to the mounting danger her husband faced, continued to grapple with her own secret back home. Living in uncertainty about her husband's fate, Natasha faced the daunting challenge of making ends meet. The long hours and constant stress took their toll on her, both mentally and physically. Despite her exhaustion, Natasha did her best to maintain a sense of normalcy for their children, keeping up with their activities and schoolwork. As the days turned into weeks and months, Natasha's resilience was tested to its limits. But she continued to push forward, driven by her love for her family and the hope that one day she would finally be reunited with her husband again and freed from the secret she had been carrying for so long. 5 months had passed, and Chris was supposed to return home. At least that's what they thought. In reality, Natasha was at home, but Chris was nowhere to be found. What was happening? When Natasha received that daunting phone call, she could barely hold back her emotions. Chris informed her that his mission would be extended by another month. Under normal circumstances, she could manage another month apart, but this time was different. She had already been keeping a significant secret for nearly 5 months, and now she had to do so for an additional month? As the days passed, Natasha struggled to maintain her composure. The pressure of keeping the secret and worrying about her husband's safety was taking its toll on her. Every day she doubted whether or not she should reveal the secret. What if her husband died? Could she ever forgive herself? In June, 6 months after he had left, Chris set course back to his home in America, not knowing that in those 6 months, everything had changed. It was June 23rd when Chris's family gathered in San Diego on a hot summer's day. There, they would be reunited with the man they had been missing all along. Natasha's thoughts were racing as she waited for Chris to arrive. She wondered if he would be able to sense that something was off. Would he be angry with her for keeping the secret? As she saw Chris walking towards her, she felt a mix of emotions. Relief, joy, and fear all rolled into one. As fast as they could, Chris's children ran towards their father. Behind them stood Natasha. She was holding a large sign. When Chris was done hugging his kids, he looked up at her and then at the sign, and his facial expression changed from laughter into shock. "Welcome back, baby daddy," the large sign said. Chris walked towards her and Natasha dropped the sign. Then Chris opened his mouth. "Are you kidding me? Seriously," Chris said when he saw what appeared from behind the sign. Hidden behind the sign was a text written on Natasha's shirt. "I am the present dad left behind before he left," it said. And under the shirt, Natasha's big old baby belly. Chris couldn't believe what he was seeing. "I looked at her and poked her stomach," he said afterwards. "I thought she was kidding me," he laughed. As he looked at the big belly of his wife, his heart was beating so fast that he could feel it in his throat. This was the secret Natasha had been hiding for him all this time, and Chris wasn't expecting anything. The day became even more special for Chris, as it coincidentally turned out to be Father's Day on the day he returned. It was such a heartwarming, feel-good moment that it almost seemed too good to be true. To keep her secret, Natasha often placed one of her children on her lap to hide her belly. She even went to greater lengths to maintain the ruse, sending her husband pictures that would throw him off the scent. For instance, she would pose with a beer in hand, pretending to drink it, while in reality she didn't consume any alcohol, and her tactics worked. Chris never suspected a thing. The decision to keep the secret was made with deep consideration. Natasha knew that if she told Chris, he would constantly worry about the milestones he was missing and be unable to focus on his mission. She didn't want to distract her beloved husband, believing it was for the best. In the following weeks, Natasha and Chris had their hands full. From buying diapers to setting up the baby's room, they had plenty to do. Finally, on September 2nd, 2017, their beautiful daughter, Anara Rose, was born. The couple was overjoyed and instantly smitten with their baby girl. Reflecting on the entire adventure filled with secrets and surprises, they agreed that they were glad Natasha had kept her secret. It had been an emotional roller coaster for her, but now she was happier than ever. After all these twists and turns, there was one more surprise awaiting them. Their story had gained so much traction on social media that they had become something of minor celebrities. That's when they received an invitation to appear on television. Natasha and Chris had the opportunity to share their story during a CBS broadcast. "It was an incredible experience," Chris remarked at the time. "Of course it would have been nice if she had told me over the phone, but the way she did all this was very special."